Hello everybody, my name is Whisper. Welcome to another tutorial video. I know it's been a minute since I did the last video. I think I said it every single time. But anyway, today's tutorial video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be talking about how to take and edit screenshots for DCS like this one that you can see on screen right now. Um, this is probably one of my favorite ones that I've ever done, but I have a whole bunch of other ones. You can see those on my Instagram, which is at WhisperDCS. And anyway, I see a lot of people like new accounts and other accounts that um, personally I think they could do with a little bit of improvement for the way they take and edit screenshots, but also everybody has their own style, and I love that everybody has their own style and way of doing things. This is just what I like to do and the way that I do it. So I got a bunch of points that I will talk about. And so let's get into that. So first thing to do, I'll talk about making a mission. I don't typically make missions specifically for taking screenshots. Occasionally I will, but for the sake of this video, that's what I'm going to do. Um, I would recommend, just in general, regardless of whether or not you are trying to be a content creator or anything, get the Syria map. It's the best map. Sinai as well. Persian Gulf is good. My favorite, though, is Syria. So we'll create a mission on here, and the first thing that I'm going to talk about is lighting. This is one of the most important things that can make or break a shot or anything in real life photography as well. It's so critical. So what I like to do is I like to kind of get that golden hour lighting. So I'll either do in the morning, a bit after sunrise, or around sunset. So the sun's fairly low on the horizon, then I can get some really nice shadows with with the various parts of the aircraft itself. So I'm just going to stick an aircraft over here. I'm gonna go with the F-16 because I like the F-16. I'll just set this to player. Just add a waypoint here. I'll set it to actually set it to like 20,000 feet, 22,000. That's too many. So we'll just do this, and then we will go to pick a loadout. Um, this is another thing that's really important. Well, important to me anyway, is loadout. I like to go for somewhat realistic loadouts. F-16s nowadays, pretty much you're almost never going to see them without AMRAAMs on the wingtips. At least for U.S. Air Force jets and most air forces that operate them. So I'll just put those on. Close air support, if there's no air threat, they typically will remove these pylons, and you can get an idea of the loadouts that are typically done by looking at pictures of the actual aircraft and the time period that you're going for. Um, Actually, first, before I finish this loadout, I'm going to pick a livery. I would, I think the livery is really critical as well. Just the default ones, most of them, they're good, but they are lacking in detail to some degree. My favorite person who makes them is this guy, Leahy. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Go download all of his liveries on the DCS website because they're just all amazing. So I'm gonna go with this Colorado Air National Guard one because I love it. But there's a ton of other amazing ones that he does. And then, and we'll get back to the loadout now. So typically, they're always going to have wing tanks on the F-16, so we'll stick those in. Remove center line pylon because they don't typically have anything on that, and it's usually removed unless they have a jammer or a third fuel tank, which is very atypical in most combat situations recently. Lightning pod, we'll put that in there. And loadouts are usually asymmetrical. Close air support loadouts, that's what I'm going to do here. They usually consist of like two GBU 12s on one side and like a GBU 31 penetrator on the other side. And or they'll have like two JDAMs on both sides, or a JDAM and an LJDAM, GBU 38s, that is, on 38s and 54s. We don't have 54s in this. We're not going to get them because it's the wrong time period for this specific like um, electronic suite that we have for DCS. But another thing they'll do a lot is maybe two GBU 12s and a Maverick. That's what I'm going to go with here. So I'm gonna go with my two GBU12s. Here they are, and a, let's see which kind. I'll do with the Maverick H. I'm gonna go with that one. So this is gonna be our loadout. It's pretty realistic. I've confirmed that with pictures. That's where I learned this. So yeah. Next thing, like I said, we're gonna get some nice lighting and clouds and things. I'll just get some wind going here just because. And clouds over the desert, it's not typically very cloudy, so we'll just go with scattered. And then lighting, click on the sun and moon thing so you can kind of see this, see where the sun's going to be. We want it to be kind of in the west. So we'll get it kind of low, 1800 hours might be good. And I might make tweaks just to get the lighting be kind of what I want it to be. So we'll load this up right here. I'm not going to bother saving because I'm not keeping this mission. Yeah. One more thing about maps that I forgot to mention earlier. Personally, I don't like taking screenshots on the Nevada test training range. I don't like that map that much because I don't think it looks very good, and I also find that in most of the screenshots there's a bit of a red hue to everything just because of the color of the ground. You can tweak that in the editing when you're editing by just adjusting the levels of the various colors. But personally, I prefer doing it over some of the other maps that look better. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause it real quick. The first thing that I will do when I get into any mission is to hold on a minute. Is to press F2, go to the external view, press left shift and F10, go through that 3 times just to get rid of those labels, and then left control Y, press that twice, you can get rid of that bar at the bottom. It's light out. I'm gonna go into active pause here. So I'm gonna turn my lights off. And do that here. I have a binding to set that off. Just because, and I'll set that through there. It's because it's broad daylight. It's not. We don't really need them on, and over combat they are always lights off anyway. So the next thing to do, what I like to do is get, I'll get aligned on the horizon just so I'm flying level. You got to see you're gonna have some asymmetric. I'm just gonna be tilting to one side just because we have our asymmetric loadout. And I will get into a bit of a bank to one side, just a little bit, and then pause it. And then you can see we have some nice kind of lighting like this. Let's try the other side. Nah, I think this bank is better. And you know what, actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the lighting. I'm going to get the sun a bit lower in the sky. So I will be right back with that. All right, so I basically just went back into the mission editor and I set it to be an hour later because it just looks better. So we're going to try and get into a bit of a bank here. See how that looks. That's starting to look pretty good. Actually, what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to loop around here. I'm going to try and get the sun behind me. And you can just mess around a bit, see what the lighting looks like, see how good it is. That could be kind of interesting. Yeah, let's go with that. I think that's kind of cool. Maybe. One thing you'll learn as you get used to it is every single aircraft has different angles that look good. Yeah, let's go with this. I think the F-16 is pretty photogenic. It depends on the angle. I would advise against, in most cases, taking pictures in any aircraft, or for most aircraft, directly down the front. It can look kind of cool, and you have a bit of the wing flex here from that turn, and the vortices coming off the wingtips, which does look kind of cool. But In my opinion, it looks a little odd if you're, especially if you're just kind of straight and level and your flaps, or I'm sorry, slats are retracted. Uh, it just looks a little funny sometimes, and it doesn't take up much of the screen. So if you get something even just like this isn't the right angle for that because there's no lighting on it. But something like this, I think. And this brings me to my next point is about adding life to it. So just flying straight and level with autopilot on, it can look kind of cool. It depends on the aircraft, depends on the angle, depends on the lighting, etc. But I like to create a sense of movement because it's a simulator. It's hard sometimes to get that because it's obviously it's a simulator. It's not real life. But uh, I think so. What I like to do, you can pull back on the stick a little bit like this. You can get those vapes coming off of the wings, coming off of the leading edge extensions. You get the vortices coming off of the wingtips, which are like my favorite detail in the screenshots lately. Um, but you can see we also have some nice shadows created by the parts of our airframe. Um, I also will say in a lot of situations, what I like to do is angle the pilot's head slightly. So if I pull up this, you can see that I have the pilot's head just tilted just to the side a little bit instead of looking right through the HUD because typically they're not going to be looking right through the HUD. And it just adds a little bit more movement. That's one issue with DCS, and the easiest way, in my opinion, to tell a screenshot from a real photo, if because sometimes it can be a little tricky, is to look at the pilot because the pilot, as good as they are, and they're really good in some aircraft and they're improving them, there's a degree of rigidity about it that isn't really realistic, and it looks a little bit strange. But anyway, oh, okay, unpause a little bit. So then we have a little bit more head tilt there. Actually, I don't really like that in this one, so I'm just gonna do that. Just pause it, unpause it, so we have that kind of like this. The next thing that I will do and tell you about is something that I discovered not that long ago. That's so useful is external zoom. So if you do zoom, external in, out, and normal, it's like the most useful thing because it's kind of like a focal zoom. So I just zoom in a bit, and then you can use the regular zoom with the mouse wheel to try and just adjust it, get it to where you like. So it kind of fills the screen up. I'm trying to get a good angle on this. Also, if you have track IR, you can kind of tilt your head a bit to get some more interesting angles like this. I'm starting to dig that, I think. So we'll do left control F12 as my binding. I don't remember if that's default. It might be different for you. Just check that. And I think this isn't even screenshotting with DCS. It's with NVIDIA or something. So just do that. I like to take a bunch, and then I will change the angle slightly so I get a whole bunch of screenshots. Maybe change my head angle, change the position. This is kind of actually growing on me. So we'll do something like this. I want to get some of those vapes to be visible because, or the vortices rather, because they just look cool. I won't typically do something like this, but every once in a while I will if the lighting is cool. Just because you can't really, I try to make the focus be on the aircraft, and obviously it's all in shadow from that angle. Something like this can be cool as well. So I just play around with it, find some stuff that looks cool. Like I said, every single aircraft is slightly different. I like to kind of get it more on the side, but not directly on the side. I won't go directly on any axis. Like I don't do this. I don't typically go just like that or right along the front, like I said earlier. I like to get more of the different angles of the aircraft itself and more of the actual thing, and just create a little bit more life and less rigidity and make it less like a simulator. So I think these shots are pretty good. I think that one's kind of cool. I love the lighting along here, the custom rough met textures that this livery creator has made, that they're just so spectacular. So huge shout out to that guy, because I almost exclusively fly with his liveries for the F-16 because they're just so spectacular. Um, anyway, so I think we've gotten some pretty good screenshots. I like these. I don't even know how I pulled that up. I don't remember what the keybind is. Uh, so yeah, so I think the next stage is going to be editing. All right, so the next thing is to pick the screenshot that you want to edit. So find your default folder. For me, it's just videos, digital combat simulator, and then I have another folder that's just in my pictures that's just for Instagram. Um, so we'll go through these here. You can see, I'm gonna close out of this. See some of my other screenshots that I was messing around with. I wouldn't advise taking them at night because, as you can see, you can't see. So I'll go through these, try and pick one that you like the best. I actually do kind of like these, even though I said don't do that earlier because it's a shadow, but it's kind of cool. The F-16, I think it looks really good from this angle. I'm not too crazy about all of these, but I kind of like some of them. Hmm. Sometimes it takes me a long time to pick the screenshot that I'm going to edit. And I just keep having to go through them all. I think I'm going to go with this one. I think that one's pretty cool. So just confirm that. And then I'll just copy and paste it into here. And then we'll open it. I use GIMP because it's free. It's sort of like Photoshop. There are other ones that you can use. I know how to do this for what I like to do, so it works for me. You can load this up. Now, the simplest thing that you can do with this, if you only want to do like one thing, is go over the curves. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I have other things that I do first. You can mess around with values. They don't have to be anything specific. I've kind of gotten into the habit of doing certain specific values for certain things. Like my first thing I always do, I go here, cut down the highlights, bring this to -50. Maybe increase the white point a little bit here, radius, and I just kind of mess around with these. These are different for every single thing. I don't even look at the value. I just kind of slide it along, see where it looks good. So somewhere around here. And already you can see it's a little bit brighter. There's a little more contrast with the or the highlights are a little bit reduced. There's more shadows. Got a brightness contrast. I like to increase contrast just a little bit. Like I won't typically go more than 5. So I'm gonna go with here because we're gonna end up increasing it a bit more later. And then I will go to levels, either increase or decrease this. I'm feeling decrease just because I want to get sort of that feeling of it's evening and there's lower light levels. So we'll do that. Curves, this is what we do. So you want to go to this one, and to this one here. They're just two apart, just all through here. One in the middle and then one down here and then one up here. We'll lower this one just a tiny little bit, just a little bit. And this one goes up a little bit. And you could, to be honest, you could edit a screenshot really well just by using curves, but I do it so subtly because if you do way too much, then it does stuff like that, and it looks terrible. And the same thing up here. It's too much. So I do it very subtly, just to kind of get what I'm going for. What this does do is it increases the saturation, which I don't really like. So I'm gonna go back here, go to saturation, and we're gonna decrease this a little bit. What we can also do is we have color balance, color temperature, all of these. This hue is, you can adjust the various values of things, what I would do for like the Nevada map. If it's too red or something, then I can adjust that a little bit in the highlights, midtones, and shadows, just to reduce that a little bit and make it a little nicer. Also, maybe do color temperature. If you bring it up, or you go one way, it's going to cool it down, and then the other way, it's going to give you a bit more warm tone. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a warm tone, just a tiny bit. It's very subtle, but you can see already just with those half a dozen things, changing values slightly, it's like, it's a serious improvement in my opinion. And then just export it to your files. I'll do this. My naming system is terrible because I just don't actually do anything. So I just do this. It's going to replace that. Export it. Then for slicing images, like I do in all of my posts pretty much, just go to image guides, new guide by percent, vertical 50%. Put that right there. Image, slice using guides, and then you have these two. And then we can export them like this. And export this one. And then we can do the final image. I won't just typically do this one. I'll do new 1920 by 1920 because my monitor is 1920 pixels by 1080. If your monitor's different, go for the width because you're going to get the whole thing, and then you'll see what we're going to do. So we go to image again. I'm going to go new guide by percent, vertical, guides, change it to horizontal, do that. So we have these, we have a nice center point for it to snap to. Find the scale tool up here, scale it, set this to 1920. You want to make sure that these are linked together. So when we do this, it's going to scale it so it's the same ratio. And then we're just going to drag this into the center. This isn't very centered, so I'm going to move this a little bit over here so it looks more centered, even though it doesn't matter that much. Actually, no, I'm not. No, I think I'm going to just keep it centered. Anchor that. Then filters, blur, linear motion blur. I'll just drag this one just so it's in line with the direction that the aircraft is going. And then reduce it to 40 or so. Hit OK. Left Control V again. And paste this one and put that there. I did not come up with this idea. I got it by looking at actual photographers and other people that have done it with the blurred background. I just think it looks cool, and it looks much better than a just a black background or something. And then the last thing that I will do is I will put a little watermark in there. I used to put my logo, my profile picture. I now just do. I'm gonna have to find what font I was doing. I don't remember. And then was this? No. That's gonna bother me if I can't find it. Maybe it was. Oops. Look at this. I just do a light gray. That's not the correct font. It doesn't really matter, but I'll just go with this just for the sake of this video because I don't want to look through it forever. We'll make this be a bit smaller, maybe 15 or so. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll go over here, rotate. You don't have to do this. You can if you want to. I'm just going through what I do because for anybody who is thinking about stealing my content, I put a watermark there. I know that doesn't mean anything, but because they still steal my content. But anyway, I'm going to scale this a little bit just to kind of decrease it. Just want to make sure this is in line. It isn't. I need to adjust it again. Actually, that's pretty good. Yeah, so I will. And then what I also like to do with this is I like to decrease, make it more transparent, just because I don't want it to take away from the actual screenshot, but I want it to be there. So anyway, I apologize. I think I was going a little fast there. I'm sorry. You can pause the video, rewind, obviously. Actually, we're gonna merge this down. So you right click on that layer, click merge down, export this one. My naming system is amazing. I just do that. Oops. Do that. And then we're done. So, I hope you found that video informative. It's just kind of quick little thing. Just how I kind of like to do it. I think I've done better screenshots. I'm still pretty happy with how this came out. I was kind of rushing a little bit. And I typically, when I actually take screenshots, like I said there in the beginning of this video, I won't normally make a mission for it. I like to do it during the mission. And so I'm taking screenshots throughout in different lighting conditions, different loadouts, stuff like that. Whenever the opportunity strikes me, the lighting is good. If you play with other people, um, if you want to get a certain thing, you can tell them to get in certain formations or positions. That can be pretty cool. One more thing I didn't mention earlier, I like to try to go for some angles that can be more realistic, like if they are formed up behind a tanker, a lot of pictures of aircraft that you'll see from this sort of angle or from like this kind of angle, they've just plugged at the tank or they just tanked, and then they get photos taken of them through the boomer's window, and so you kind of get that sort of angle, which I think is very cool and fun to do. Otherwise, I might do things like this. I don't usually do shots like that angle, but I do kind of like this one because I like the lighting over the canopy. I think the pilot and Wizzo look really good in the Strike Eagle. I think the module itself just looks fantastic as well. It's fun to take screenshots of. But um, anyway, I'm rambling. I hope you found that informative. Please don't like completely copy what I do, because you should develop your own style. I think that's something that's so great about the DCS creator community on social media is you get used to seeing people's content and you can immediately recognize who did it. But I hope you can maybe adopt some of these techniques because there's things that I found very useful and helpful to me in developing my style and the way that I like to um, take shots. So, like I've said 14 times in the last couple minutes, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you will check me out my next video. So, until then, peace out.